Hello, Doreen. When did you get out?
On the inside, the sun still shines, and the rain falls down.
Make sure you don't miss Prisoner Cell Block H next week. It's going to be shown at the rather earlier time of 12:20.
Last night I dreamed we were together, sharing all the love we'd known, till I had to face the nightmare of waking up alone. On the inside the roses grow, they don't mind the stony ground, but the roses here are.
Coming up next, Robin Oakley of The Times discovers what the papers say, and not Mary Holland of The Observer as advertised.
Thames XXI. Next Monday at 9, Thames Mavericks brings the Sweeney, Dennis Waterman and John Thorpe.
Regan. Send a man up to interview Oates. He was released yesterday.
You're too clever by half.
Yes, I never could resist it.
Oates is not dead, he's done a bunk. Furthermore, he's involved with Kibber right up to his neck. That picture says so.
The Sweeney, another Thames Maverick next Monday at 9.
You know I'm waiting, just anticipating things I may never possess. But while I'm without them, try a little tenderness. Try a little tenderness.
Bounty, the taste of paradise.
Quite incredible. Australia now only need one more wicket to win the match. Here he comes. He's bowling! Australia has won the Ashes! Look out of the red! Fantastic scene! This must be our greatest victory ever!
Looks like they've opened the bar then.
Yeah.
Australians wouldn't give a Castlemaine XXXX for anything else.
Hey! Hey, buddy, take me to the best burger place in town. Somewhere that does a real meaty, tasty char-grilled burger.
Darling, this is Mr. Weinberger from Texas. He's joining us for dinner.
I wish you wouldn't keep doing this. Your prize burger, Mr. Weinberger.
That was every bit as good as the burgers back home. This place sure does take some beating.
And it also takes all major credit cards.
New prize burger from the Bird's Eye Steakhouse, the best grill in town.
Dentists warn that plaque is a major dental problem. Plaque builds up on your teeth every day, and no matter how hard you brush, you don't get enough off, especially in hard-to-reach places. Rinse with Plax before brushing and you'll shift more plaque than brushing alone. Plax shifts more plaque than brushing alone.
Hello again, good evening to you. Robin Oakley of The Times now takes a look at the week's papers and discovers just what the papers say.
This week, What the Papers Say is presented by Robin Oakley of The Times.
When it comes to disaster reports, it isn't what is to be done to prevent repetition which excites the louder end of Fleet Street. What they want is someone to blame. Lord Justice Taylor's interim report on Hillsborough gave them their man.
Damned. Officer who froze at Hillsborough.
In the Daily Mirror, it was...
Guilty. Hillsborough top cops condemned.
Senior officers were evasive.
Man in charge froze on spot.
The Sun, too, highlighted the criticism of Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield. Under that now familiar banner, Cop Who Froze, it quoted the report's damning words.
Mr. Duckinfield's capacity to make decisions and to give orders seemed to collapse.
Of course, what made it all the more enticing for Fleet Street's headline owners was that this wasn't one of those occasions where it was the fourth assistant bottle washer who'd set off a tragedy by poking his screwdriver down the wrong hole. The finger was pointed unerringly at the top brass. Lord Justice Taylor praised alert young constables, but he added, as the Times reported,
The senior officers in command were defensive and evasive
witnesses.
Neither their handling of the problems on the day nor their account of it in evidence showed the qualities of leadership to be expected of their rank.
Why was the Mirror so keen to emblazon across the top of 2 pages,
Fans in the clear?
Crowd was magnificent, says report.
Nothing to do, surely, with the fact that it was the Mirror's usually triumphant rival, The Sun, which had highlighted, in the aftermath of the tragedy, the allegations refuted by the report of drunken Liverpool fans pickpocketing corpses and urinating over rescuers. Rubbing it in, the Mirror observed,
Lord Justice Taylor said,
Those who made the allegations and those who disseminated them would have done better to hold their peace.
I dare say the Sun's circulation representatives in the Northwest would echo that. It was a fair old drubbing for the police. But the Mail on Sunday, not long after its editor Stuart Stephen had given 2 pages to his treatment by the men in blue over a car horn incident, this time did its best to offer consolation. Under the headline,
Why our battered police should have justice too,
it pointed out that last year 20,000 policemen, 1 in 7, were assaulted on duty.
If some policemen do not behave quite as we would wish, maybe we should ensure that while there is a justifiable public uproar when they get things wrong, there are equal expressions of anger when they become the victims of our violent society.
Well, yes. It is appalling that 50 policemen, and women surely, are injured every day. But that wasn't quite the point here. More to the point was the question addressed by other papers. Should the offer to resign by Yorkshire's Chief Constable Sir Peter Wright be taken up or not? For the Sunday Express, it was clear enough.
He has offered his resignation after Lord Justice Taylor's damning report on the police handling of the Hillsborough soccer disaster, and it should be accepted.
The Guardian, too, wanted it
promptly accepted.
And in the Mirror, of course, there were no doubts.
There can be no excuses. There must be a clear out at the top, starting with a chief constable.
But the Observer, at its most observerish, headed its editorial,
Right wronged.
It complimented Mr. Wright for offering to go, but appearing, without exactly saying so, to suggest that he should stay, it declared that the police deserved more understanding than Lord Justice Taylor had given them.
Stewarding football matches is a thankless task at best, and it is unfair to lay the panoply of ills of British soccer, underinvestment by clubs, wretchedly poor stadium facilities and so on, at their door.
As for Fleet Street's practical suggestions, they were limited. With conclusions on perimeter fencing, alcohol in grounds, and the government's proposed identity card scheme postponed until the final report, perhaps that was predictable. But it was a neat point from David Lacey in The Guardian.
There were 800 police officers on duty at Hillsborough to control a crowd of 51,000. The same number subsequently deemed necessary to prevent 500 hippies assembling at Stonehenge.
At least it shows that football isn't the only traditional sport tying up the cream of police manpower on a Saturday afternoon, and it gives a new meaning to flower power, doesn't it? Cricket, too, has stepped into the silly season breach this year by overflowing from the sports pages to the front of the book. The decision by 16 England cricketers, initially, to accept lucrative 2-year contracts to tour South Africa, thus disqualifying themselves from playing for England for 7 years, brought predictable screams of outrage. Their attitude, thundered the Mirror, was, Up yours, England! The Mirror's leader writers, who deserve a hang glider for Christmas since they go over the top so often, declared under the headline,
Blood money.
The 16 England cricketers who are to tour South Africa have betrayed their country. By their stupidity and greed, they have struck a blow against the campaign for justice by the oppressed, beaten, starved, tortured and murdered men, women and children in the black majority of South Africa.
In the same paper on Monday, columnist Michael Parkinson said that cricketers had been
bought by the slave masters.
Perhaps predictably, it was The Sun which offered the counter case, cash.
It's easy to understand why so many of our finest cricketers have legged it to South Africa. It's called money, and who can blame them? They can earn £85,000 tax-free over 2 years. If they stayed here, it would take many of them almost a decade to earn that amount.
Meanwhile, of course, the Citizen newspaper in Johannesburg was quoting South Africa's cricketers on what a great side the England rebels would be.
Tourists have all the talent.
As the Guardian's Matthew Engel put it.
Now, there's a funny thing. Last thing I knew, these people were a bunch of fairies and Gower's goons. Not the least attraction of a South African tour for cricketers.